Live. There it is. We're live on YouTube. Uh, we're live on YouTube. My name is Tim Erickson. I'm St. Paul Tim, and this is the weekly outreach meeting today on September 15th. For those of you who might not be aware, September 15th is a special day. It is release day. We are releasing Backdrop 1.23 today, and we're still having a meeting. Isn't that good? Anyways, let's go ahead and do our introductions. My name is, I'm Tim Erickson. I'm in Deerwood, Minnesota. And we often share just something interesting. I've been working, it's been a very busy week. And the big thing is we're so close to launching a long overdue Drupal 7 to Backdrop update, one that I'm really happy about because we put a lot of extra time into usability stuff, that editor experience stuff that I think is going to be cool. So Martin, do you want to go next?
Hi, Martin from the UK, Yorkshire pudding around Backdrop Internet. And I look after the LinkedIn posts, which I haven't been doing much, but I'm sure we'll be doing an announcement with a release. I think we've got a few quite cool things in there, so it'll be quite good. So yeah, that's all. Go to Jen.
Hi, Jen Lampton, joining from Oakland, California. Very excited about release day. Also very excited about Open Source Day, which is tomorrow. Yeah, so cool stuff in the future. And Backdrop Live, which is also a few weeks away. There's a lot going on. Let's see. Robert, did you introduce yourself already? There you go.
I'm Robert Lyon, bug folder on the internet in Altadena, California. And I've mostly just been doing odds and ends, but got a few bug fix releases for various modules out today. So feeling pretty good about that.
Well, and Robert, thanks for, we had, Jen, I don't know if you've caught up yet, but we had some issues on backdrop.org yesterday, just a weird config thing. It's discussed in the Backdrop infrastructure stream in Zulip, if you want to follow through. But Robert, we had some config that got overwritten. I don't think we ever figured out how, did we, Robert? Or what exactly what happened?
No idea how. A config file for a text format magically went away. But we found an old copy and put it back. And things are working again.
Was this like the standard plus date tokens?
Standard plus tokens.
Yeah, I know. I switched a couple of pieces of content to standard because standard also has tokens. So I'm not sure what the difference is between standard and standard plus tokens. Yeah,
I didn't think standard had tokens because I thought that was the reason for, unless they've been added.
They might have been needed somewhere else since then. I don't know, but I don't remember what I was working on. I think it was the meetings page.
Yeah, and those pages weren't working. So if it did have the tokens filter, go ahead.
I think we want to be a little careful about that because any authenticated user can use standard, which means any authenticated user can create a token that potentially reveals private information, sensitive information. So one of the motivations for creating standard plus tokens was that was only accessible to editor and developer because of that potential for exposure. Anyhow, the thing is, we already have a bunch of pages that use the standard plus tokens. And when the text format went away, they all reverted to plain text, which then wiped out, and they were showing up blank or nearly blank. But we put standard plus tokens back, and the pages are restored, and everything seems to be happy.
Okay, and does the meetings page work? Because that wasn't working for me because somebody had switched the format, so all of the HTML that was in there had gone missing. So I went back and changed it, like put all the headings back in. The font awesome icons are still missing, but I figured those weren't important. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like one of the text formats probably doesn't allow like H3s or H4s or something like that. Anyway, we can look at it later. I'm glad you figured out what the problem was and got it working again. But
Okay.
I don't think so that was probably my fault. I don't think I did anything to the formats intentionally anyway, other than looking at them and saying, oh, I need to change the format and switching it to get that. And I think I switched it to like full HTML or something. So I wouldn't have gone back to standard. I would have gone up the next one. But anyway, if that was me, I'm sorry. I'm glad you figured it out.
Yeah. Okay, not a big deal. The events themselves used them, and so the office, basically we had 3 different office hour notes, and they all used that thing, and they were broken. And then I think the meetings page was still broken yesterday. When I went to it, I couldn't see anything. So, but I think we fixed all those pages, and as far as I know, they would be the only ones I can think of.
I think we fixed the meetings page. But let's.
I think, was it the meetings page? I don't remember. It might have been the resources page that I was looking at.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was this.
Anything
page.
that had the tokens on it would have possibly been a problem.
Yeah,
Yeah,
meetings page has tokens on it, and it is working.
Right. And the resources page could have tokens on it if there's any.
It
dates
does.
in
They're in the office
Yeah.
hours section.
Okay.
Okay.
And Martin, you
And
might have
in the
actually had
meetings
something to do with
section.
adding tokens to a few pages, didn't you?
Yeah, office hours,
Don't
the tokens are
think
not
so.
rendering. I'm taking a look
They're
right
not.
now.
Right.
Yeah.
It's set to HTML code. I'm just going to try switching it to standard plus tokens.
No, don't do that, because that's how it broke last time, and I spent all the time fixing it.
It looks good right now. I mean, I
Okay.
just switched it and it looks completely okay. I suspect the reason it looked broken was because that text format had mysteriously vanished. And when that happens, then things revert to the lowest common denominator. And so like HTML, all sorts of stuff, HTML tokens aren't rendered.
Yeah, well, I hit edit and all the headings were gone, like all the H2 text. So I had to switch it to HTML and manually type them all back in.
Yeah,
Because
again,
none of that was in there.
but I think in that the text format was actually gone, Jen, and
Yeah.
and that had, and so that was probably what initiated this, not the lack of headings, but the fact that they were gone because the text format disappeared.
But it has
Well,
headings now.
Yeah.
Right.
At least
So,
right
but
now it's looking good.
if the somebody had created a piece of content with heading like HTML tags that aren't allowed, switched it to a text format with an editor where the headings were not allowed, and hit save, that would delete the content. And so what I found when I edited is that the content had been deleted, like all the tags had been deleted. So that was what I was worried about, is the actual like deletion of data. Whereas when a text format is missing, none of the data has changed, it's just how it's rendering.
Yeah.
So it's much easier to like change the text formats to get it to look right rather than have to like re-edit all the content. But anyway, I don't know how it got to how it was in the first place, and I'm glad that it's fixed now. So there we go.
Okay.
Yeah, also looks good
Okay.
to me. So thank you for that.
Good. Okay. Thank you, Robert. And what else? So let's move on to just quickly. I think it was before we got on, started recording, we talked about the fact there is a release day and there's a bunch of work that has to be done. So we could try to move through our items quickly and then actually do some work because there's something, or we'll see how the meeting goes. But we do have to talk about Bad Camp. We should talk about Open Source Day tomorrow and a Backdrop Live. And we could also, I don't know if there's anything special about the release in terms of outreach that we want to talk about today. Those are the 4 obvious topics. What?
The blog post.
Yeah, right. That would be the most obvious one. I'm thinking, but I keep pondering: is there something more we should be doing that isn't on our list right now? For example, and if Sarvashri were here, he might say, reach out. Like this might be the kind of thing that we should be announcing to other organizations or some of the media sites. And I haven't looked closely at the list of contacts that he gave us, but like it might not hurt to reach out to that Drupal Times and just make sure they know that we have a release, because they might actually cover that. So that's the kind of thing I'm thinking about it. And I don't know if unless some people have specific ideas, I'll put it on myself to just check the list that Sarashri generated and also go back. I know we have an issue that listed some contacts in the issue queue, and make sure that we have, that we're trying to reach out and just maybe do it like a mini press release, just an email that, let's these people know that we did a release. Anyways, anything else that anybody can think of in terms of release day related stuff? The blog post, if anybody, so I have a super busy schedule now. I've written some of the blog posts recently, not all of them. If somebody, I could probably do one this weekend. I'm not sure if I'll get to it before that. If anybody else could do it before that, let me know.
I have a to-do list on my agenda today to go through all of the closed issues for the milestone, and that includes adding a paragraph for release section on the bottom. And after I do that, it should be much easier for other people to look at all the issues and pull all those paragraphs and make the blog post.
Sure.
So I'm committing to do that
Okay.
preparation today on all of those issues. So anyone wants to assemble those into a post.
It's not inconceivable I divert myself from something else tonight and work on this, especially if you do that pre-work, Jen. So where will all that text be?
It's like at the bottom of the top post in every one of those issues, there should be a section, like we'd added this a while ago, I think, to the template that's like promotional blurb or whatever.
Okay, that would be great.
So I'll try and start with that.
Oh yeah, that would absolutely help. Okay. Obviously, we'll do the normal tweets. Martin, if you could just be prepared to do a LinkedIn announcement, today or early tomorrow, just announcing that there's a release out. That would be great. Other than that, I can't think of anything. So
yeah, it'll be early tomorrow because I won't be up when when it's released. So.
Yeah, obviously your time zone, especially given how late we're doing it this time, for sure. Well, not that that's not unusual, but it's often late. Anyways, okay, tomorrow morning's fine. And in fact, there's been an argument about not making too big a deal about it till a few days afterwards, just in case anything goes wrong. But I think we do usually at least put it out on social media pretty quick. What we have held off is on a newsletter announcement. I think we've usually waited a week or two, right, Jen, to do sort of a big newsletter about the new release, just to give it time to settle. Yeah. Okay. Should we move on? How about Bad Camp? Let's talk about Bad Camp next, and just so Bad Camp sessions have been selected. Jen, I did get a note from the Bad Camp folks telling me that my session was on hold, was pending. And it wasn't clear to me if it was pending word from you or if it was pending like an opening that came up. I sort of followed up with that. I think they didn't know that so I have a backed up case study that I submitted to Bad Camp, and it's not been officially accepted yet, but they haven't rejected it yet either. We are planning to do a Bad Camp or a backdrop summit for a half day, right, during Bad Camp. Why don't you update us on that, Jen, even if it's an update.
So the summit will be Friday morning, 9 to noon Pacific time. I don't have an official agenda for it yet, but I have reached out to Zach Chandler from Stanford, and he said that he would be there and he would love to share a little bit about the Stanford sites, which I thought would be compelling for people. And I thought we could do maybe a 20-minute slide deck of what is backdrop. We have an old one that can probably update to stuff that's relevant today. And then I thought it might be valuable to do a couple of different showcases, Stanford being one of them, but maybe we could do some other sites that were a little different. And then I don't know what else we can do. We only have 3 hours. So you could also ask people in the room what they're hoping to learn and see if we can help talk about upgrades if they want about upgrades or building sites with commerce or whatever their questions are around that in that time.
Well, I will have if they don't accept my showcase, and if we wanted another case study, I could do something quick. here's another thought, which leads into the next thing. So the other thing that's happening is Irina has been pushing for a backdrop sprint at Bad Camp, and I think she's sort of got that officially on the schedule, is my understanding. She had a meeting, I think, yesterday with the Bad Camp folks, and the plan was to do that on Friday afternoon. So I wonder if one of the things we couldn't do, Jen, for the morning, in case we get people that are advanced users that show up, is give them sort of, so you could have sort of the beginner track, which is the discussions you talked about. And then, but if you know, some people show up that want to like just jump right into the sprinting, that could be part of the summit too. But like as a side thing, I suspect we're mostly going to get new people that are interested in the kind of content that you were talking about. But we just never know, right? Until we get there, who's going to show up. So yeah, that's sort of my thought on how to think about the schedules. You to proceed doing what you are, but we just have the sort of early start on the sprint as an option for people that might want to do that. It could even be simultaneously, some people sitting at the back of the room listening but sprinting. What else? Anything else on Bad Camp? Is there anything else that we could do to leverage Bad Camp? We might encourage some BOFs, assuming that is scheduled. We know that Luke, Irina will be there. I know, Jen, you're just planning to be there, I think, the one day, right?
Yeah, I don't know
Or
if they
have to-
have rooms set up for BOFs. I think that they're thinking the total attendance for the event will be around 200, which is pretty
Okay.
small.
Sure.
And I think they have 3 or 4 rooms going at the same time.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know what the plan is for BOFs.
Well, the other thing is just like social media, or, you know, do we have an informal happy hour for backdrop folks? Just anybody curious that wasn't able, maybe at the end of the day on Friday, we, between whatever, if there's any official event, we just get together for coffee or beers between. That's another option. I don't know. We could play that a little bit by ear, I think.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking if there's any other ways we can maximize the opportunity of Bad Camp. One of the things that Bad Camp is going to be, okay, there's still a chance that I might try to get out there. If I do, it'd be like the first chance I've had to just sort of meet with people in several years, right? And anything we can do to encourage and facilitate that. But there's a lot of the whole cooperating with Drupal. I'm sure there'll be some people there from like the Drupal Association, even if on their own. And this will be a great. We should just keep that in mind, that this is a good opportunity for us to back channel with people that we haven't had a chance to back channel with for a while. Anything else?
Not that I can think of.
Okay, let's move on to Backdrop Live. And so I haven't been doing anything on it. I think at the last meeting, we asked people to test the registration process. And I think 1 or 2 people did. And I think they had some minor feedback. I don't know if we did anything with that feedback. I've been reluctant to promote registration because I haven't tried it myself. And I wasn't quite sure if we dealt with some of the small issues. I know that on a macro level, it's working. Does anybody looked at it close enough, and this includes you, Jen, to say comfortably that there's no problem can I tweet today, come register for Backdrop Live, or do we think we need to test it a little better?
I didn't hear what the previous feedback was, but I would say, generally speaking, if we tweet for it, people have problems. That's a good way to find out about problems. Maybe we could wait until we tweet until after the release is out, so that we aren't trying to help people with registration problems while trying to get the release out. So
Sure.
maybe like later tonight or tomorrow morning or something.
Sure.
I think that might be good.
That's fair enough. Yep. Okay, and we can maybe leverage those a little bit. We'll do a tweet just about the release, but we can do another tweet that's like, hey, come talk about the new features in Backdrop at Backdrop Live. So I don't know if there's anything more to talk about Backdrop Live today. Anybody have any questions or anything they want to?
I wanted to just bring up, we've talked about this a couple of times, is during the first block, setting up like an intro track. I was thinking it might be really nice to have like a session on content types and fields, a session on views, and a session on layouts as like, this is what a CMS is. So really intro, high level for beginners, but also something that maybe people who are more advanced might still be able to learn something from, like a fun example. Sure. With, I don't know, contextual filters and views or something that might be just a little more fun. I think that it would be great if we could put those sessions on the schedule, even if we don't have presenters, and then have some way to like prompt people and say, hey, we're looking for facilitators for these 3 hours, and see if that might encourage some people who maybe wouldn't have otherwise offered a session to fill up those. I don't know how to do that, like suggestion piece of it. But I'd be willing to work on something on that. Like, I know the registration form, we're like, what do you want to present? But it doesn't tie into the like node. I don't know. So yeah, maybe we can talk about ideas for how to facilitate that.
Well, I love everything about it. What you just said, and I think I'd love to run to the site right now and put those on the schedule. Okay, I don't think we have the schedule up yet, but it would be a reason to get the schedule up, right, and actually have a working schedule. I was going to say, well, we could try to divvy up those sessions right now, but I actually like your idea about putting them on the schedule and saying, hey, we need people to do these as an opportunity to get some folks who would be good presenters but just don't know what to present on. And this, I would say as a goal, Jen, you and I should not do one of these, because we'll probably be doing enough other things, and we should try to find 3 new people, just as a way an opportunity to get them involved in presenting and give them a kind of a straightforward topic. So we don't have any like a curriculum or a slide deck for those specific topics, do we?
No. And I also don't know, so I have like training materials from when I used to work at Chapter 3 on those 3 concepts, but they are like intended for like a day or week long training classes, so probably not suitable. But it might be good to like, you could browse them and be like, oh, this is a good example, and pull it out. So if people needed example material for that, we could probably come up with something. But I also think if we're going to request that somebody specifically want to give it, we should give them the flexibility to do whatever they feel like is comfortable for that hour. But yeah, I think all the help we can offer, we should, but no restrictions.
No, I mean, if we'd had a slide deck, I just would have said to make it available, not to require them.
Okay.
And we could ask, but again, I wouldn't require that if somebody does do this and we don't have a slide deck, that if they just plant in a seed, that if they created something reusable, that would be great, but they shouldn't feel obligated. Because this is the kind of thing we could do at every Backdrop Live. So if we did do something reusable, that would be nice. But I don't want to make this harder for anybody than it already is. So. Okay, I think anybody else have any thoughts on that? And I love what did you say? Content types and fields, views, and layouts. I think that's perfect. Is anybody else? Is that like a good training program for an intro to Backdrop? I think, I think we'll get people coming just for those 3 sessions.
Yeah, it might be worth under each of those just giving 1 or 2 bullets that just explain what you think the scope might be. So it might be for example, fields. You might want to say, well, these are all the different types of fields you can use out of a box, but don't stop there. Here's where you can find additional fields, and that sort of thing. And this is how this is, and I guess a bit about configuring the fields, and that there's an element of reuse between content types and that sort of thing. But because I think if you just put out there the headings, people might flounder and not be sure what to do it on. But if we give like just a very brief pointer as to the scope they might want to consider, I think that'll help people have the confidence to.
Sure. It sounds like you're saying primarily for the benefit of a potential presenter, that if we give them an idea of what the expected scope is, that could be helpful to them. I agree. I mean, it's not that we're going to enforce that or anything in any way, but it might be helpful. Sure.
Yeah, I think it would also just give somebody the ability to kind of look at that list and go, oh, I could do that.
Right.
Which they might not be like, oh, I don't know what that means. Maybe I'm not qualified for that. And if we're like, no, just, yeah.
Both content types and views, we'll be able to plagiarize very heavily from Drupal 7. The layouts is the most unique thing. You don't like the word plagiarize, which I don't think that's the wrong word. We can share. We can share content. No, we shouldn't. We should use two words like that. Okay. Anything else? I kind of wanted to talk about that same thing too, Jen, but I just didn't feel prepared. So I'm glad you did, because let's just move. That's something we can move forward on right away. And the sooner we can promote that, the better. And especially if we could have that all set up before Bad Camp, that'll be a good thing to promote around Bad Camp time. Anything else on Backdrop Live? Okay. How about Open Source Day tomorrow? Jen, do you want to give an update on where we're at and
sure.
anything we need?
So tomorrow morning, it's 7:45 a.m., which is really early for me. We're going to start off the day. There's going to be a little intro to Open Source Day and the Grace Hopper celebration, which is the event that it's part of. And then we'll have maybe half an hour to tell everybody what Backdrop is and why they should care. And then after that, we will unleash everyone on the GitHub issue queue, specifically Good First Issues, and they will go through and try and make code changes. So what we're going to be seeing are a bunch of first-time contributors trying to figure out GitHub, trying to figure out pull requests, trying to use our sandboxes to test things. And hopefully they'll be able to actually contribute a little bit through that process. Tim and I will be available on most of the day to help people through that process of trying to get things working, trying to find which line and which file should be edited, which can be really hard for new people. And then Nate will be available for a little bit of the time to merge anything that we feel is RTBC. So what we're going to need help with is, as the pull requests coming in, making sure they're getting reviewed and marked RTBC if they are in fact ready to be committed. This doesn't have to happen tomorrow too. Sometimes these people linger for a couple of weeks. They usually have a couple of weeks to get credit for all of the work they're doing on open source projects. So I would just say, anyone who, even if you're not available tomorrow, is interested in helping, could just keep an eye on the pull requests that come in and help give people feedback on them as needed.
Sure. Something that seems to be have worked really well, especially the last two open source days, was for us to just walk through it as a group and do a pull request. And so I don't know if I think it would be great if we had one or two of those identified that we could, set aside that are, they could, a simple text change is acceptable, although if it were just a little harder than a text change, I suppose that would be good. My suggestion, Jen, from previous expectations is that we should sort of plan to do, we could do it in a side room. I think we have that ability. I think we used it last time, but it seemed to be sort of really effective and engaging. And it seems like we do one in the morning and then there's more people in the afternoon and we need to do it again. So if we're just prepared for that, that would be good. if I'm a little bit nervous about the you know, depending on how many people we get and how we get through the process, about the availability of good, easy issues. If anybody has any time to sort of triage and help us find some good beginner issues and tag them, that would be greatly appreciated.
I just wrote on my to-do list for today, 1, release, 2, good first issues.
Yeah.
3,
Yes.
event site cleanup.
I feel like, yeah, that's.
We'll see. We'll see
Yeah.
how far we
If
get.
I can work on the blog post tonight and or getting identifying at least 3 or 4 good first issues, that would be good. It's sometimes it's helpful as a mentor to have some issues ready that you're really familiar with, that you don't have to spend 10 minutes reading through the queue. You know, you can just start talking about right away. Anything else? Well, let's just tie this into 2 other things, which is we're also looking at a sprint for, so going back to, Bad Camp. I didn't talk enough about the sprint because Irina has a focus on that, and her idea was to focus at Bad Camp on the upgrade process. And I think what she's trying to do is leverage this this feeling out there that maybe there's some room for us to cooperate with Drupal folks who want to get people off of Drupal 7. They want to quit supporting it, right? And that maybe we can get some of them to help us make the process better, to get it onto Backdrop. And Jen, you know more about, so what she'd like to do is for us to have some specific issues identified around that topic. And she's already got a Google Doc where we could start to list issues. And reminded me, I think what she's one of the main things that we talked about in our meeting with her was this ability to import the database directly right into Backdrop, your Drupal 7. Is that, am I understanding that correct?
Yeah, I think that's what she wants.
And do we have good, I suspect that the sprint will go smoother. We might potentially get some people, some friends of ours who don't normally help in the issue queue that would be willing to help for a day, that are skilled, right? And that could jump into an advanced issue if we have real clear path, like on where we need help. And I'm wondering, do we have that now, or do we need to get ready?
I don't even think we have an issue queue we can use for this yet. So I'll check. I think there's a
you actually started to work on the contrib module, I thought.
Yeah, I'm gonna check and see. I think I called it upgrade UI.
I don't remember, but yeah, you came back from that San Francisco Drupal user group meeting all excited. Yeah.
I was all excited. Look at this. But I did. Go me. Okay, I'm just gonna drop a link in here and I'll put it in Zulip.
Okay.
I love it when I do that. Thank you, future me or past me.
So what would be really helpful before Bad Camp, I think, would be to look at that and even if we can break that. So, well, for one, determine is the right path maybe to just get this contrib module working before we put it in the core issue queue, or do you have any insight on that?
Interesting. So Doc Wilmot says there's already a module. Yeah, I think what we should do is test the module that Doc Wilmot mentioned, because it might already do most of what we want. Compare that to Irina's list of feature requests, which we might just need to document somewhere if we know what it is. And then we can itemize out what the differences are. Like, oh, we're missing the ability to, I don't know, map your fields, or I don't think that's one of the things, but something like that.
Sure.
And I think if we can get that list of issues, then we'll have more concrete things for people to work
on. Robert, I feel like I'm limited in my ability to help with this particular thing. If this is something that interests you, it seems like you might actually be able to help, even if just to scope out like what it should do and what the tasks are. Sorry to put you on the spot, but if that's something you're able to help with, I think it would be really helpful. But if not, that's okay.
Yeah, I think I'll pass. There's kind of a lot of things that in discussion that went by that I'm going, well, I'd have to study up for
Okay.
to
Well,
contribute on that.
I don't want to put that on you. I was just thinking, given that you've already done some upgrade work, so I thought you might be able to. That's fine. Martin, I don't know where you're at on that issue, but I find it a bit overwhelming for me. But maybe
Sorry, which issue is this? I was just looking at the upgrade UI tool.
Well, I think the idea that Irina is really pushing is that there's sort of that you spin up a backdrop site, and then right now, I think the current instructions for doing an upgrade, if I'm correct, call for you to create a backdrop site, right, to sort of prep it, and then to upload the database directly to the SQL via like the command line or a database tool.
Yeah.
And I think what Irina is saying, why can't we build a UI for that so that you can just push a button? Does that sound right, Jen?
Yeah. Okay. And I just looked at Doc Wilmot's module. He has one called D to B migrate, which looks exactly like what I was thinking. It leverages backup and migrate to handle the import process, which is what I was going to do. And his is even better because on your initial backdrop site, it will say, hey, I've connected to your Drupal database and determined that these are the modules that you had installed in Drupal, and you should now download and install those on your backdrop site first. So it helps you architect your empty backdrop installation, which sounds fantastic. So I think what we should do for the sprint is test this project and see what's not there and work on that instead, because it sounds like it's a lot closer than what I have.
I mean, another thought is that we schedule after the release, between now and Bad Camp, we schedule a developer meeting. We'll put this on the agenda and talk about it at a developer meeting and get some feedback there too. Okay.
I wouldn't really know where to start doing this through the UI. I have been looking at stuff through the through scripting with the command line and stuff with B, but the UI's another level.
Sure. Well, maybe what you and I could do, Martin, is test that the Doc Wilmot's module, just see if we can get it to work and give feedback. Is that it's in the contrib space?
Yep, I dropped a link into the Zoom chat. I put it into Zulip also.
Okay. So the final sprint related thing, we're not going to get done early, are we? The final sprint, on the other hand, I think we've been talking about important stuff. So the other sprint related thing is, for the last couple of years, I've been watching this Hacktoberfest event. And I don't know if any of you have ever heard of it, but I hear about it just because I happen to be in the right Twitter stream. So every year I see all these tweets about Hacktoberfest. And basically it's, I think DigitalOcean is the company that sponsors it. And it's just encouraging people to get involved in open source. And they give out a massive amount of t-shirts to people who make a contribution during the month of October. And they also have a web, so they encourage sort of tags on GitHub that, spread the word about Hacktoberfest. We'll have to see how we handle that. But I think you can also, they have sort of a calendar of scheduled sprints on their Hacktoberfest website so that people who want to contribute can find sprints to join. And I think that we could get on that schedule. And since the Bad Camp sprint is going to be happening during Hacktoberfest, I think we should at very minimum get that sprint on the Hacktoberfest, because also Irina's plan is to make this a in-person and virtual sprint day. And so anybody, you won't have to be at Bad Camp to participate, and we could make it also a Hacktoberfest event. And we might want to schedule another Hacktoberfest sprint as well. I don't know. But if anybody has any ideas or wants to help, certainly Martin will count on you to help promote these things on LinkedIn once they're firmed up. But if anybody else has any thoughts, I don't know if this is so on a related topic, Angie Byron posted a nice Twitter thread last night. Jen, I reposted it. I don't know if you saw it, talking about first-time contributions. And she was talking about sort of metrics to determine how successful a project is or a company. So this wasn't specific to open source at all. But she said sort of like, what would the metric be in open source that we could focus on? And her idea was sort of time to resolve trivial issues. And she's like, and then she just gave 2 examples of cases where she posted first-time contributions, things like documentation updates, right, to other open source projects. And within 24 hours, they had been approved and merged. And 1, how good that made her feel. And 2, how, if a project focuses on that, like how do we respond quickly to things, that's just going to be overall good for the project. And I guess I'm just bringing this all up because if we're doing a number of sprints, what is it that we could be doing to better support? And I guess I'm also thinking about, and this might be a PMC issue, Jen, is whether or not we would want to. In one of the Angie mentioned getting a mug for her first contribution to one of the projects. And I'm wondering, I've been thinking about something like that for a while, is using either T-shirts or something else, or maybe a mug or something, maybe
stickers at least.
Or at least a sticker, right? Send somebody something. I mean, I think just a sticker would be a nice touch. And just sort of make that like, certainly we could do it during the month of like Oktoberfest. It could be part of our Oktoberfest program, but we might even just do it indefinitely, right? Anytime somebody submits their first, at least their first, and we could, talk more about that. So, any quick thoughts on that? Or if the problem is, the biggest thing is the logistics of managing. That means getting addresses and actually physically sending something out. And I don't like to put that work on us when we're already overburdened, but it could be, if us putting a little time into that meant more contributors, it could really be.
Do you think, are you expecting mainly US based for these, or could they be anywhere?
Well, our virtual sprints could be anywhere, and we try to keep that flexibility. Sometimes, so that the Bad Camp one is going to be the physical part of it, right, is going to happen at a time that's probably best for people in the U.S. However, there's no reason it couldn't be a 24-hour sprint if we have coverage, as long as we have someone available at other time zones. But I don't like to say we're sprinting 24 hours and then if somebody. It doesn't make any sense if there's nobody available to sort of help people. So, Martin, if you were in a position to help, and we don't have to say 24 hours, but we could designate a time frame that included a European time slot, as long as we know that there'll be somebody there. And you don't have to, in my opinion, I've done a lot of mentoring, Martin, and you don't need to be able to answer people's, like, how do I create a hook to do X? That's not the kind of thing that I think is most needed at a sprint. What's most needed is somebody that can help them understand the issue queue, like know what to do first, or help them find an issue. That really, those are the skills for sort of mentoring and helping somebody get going. Is help them find an issue and help them. I frequently direct people intentionally to first-time contributors to very easy issues that I can help them with. Right? If they say to me, "Oh, I have the skills to do a complicated issue," I say, "Great, there it is. Good luck. Post questions in the issue queue because I can't help you, and that's fine."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. If I can, depending on when it is and how it fits around, I'd be possibly happy to do that. I was also thinking in terms of logistics that if there was, if you did have people in kind of UK and Ireland, it would make sense to be having things printed and sent from here. Rather than kind of shipping everything from the US, and there might be other people in other parts of the world who would be, if we have a design file that and general principles, if we can find people who are willing to act as a local contact and
Yes.
get a local supplier. And there's some a company I've used who will do drop shipping. So
Right.
you can basically say this is a design, send it direct to this person. So
Actually, when I thought about mugs, I was thinking about exactly that. It's just finding a company that
mhm.
cannot think, we're not selling these to make money, right? It would be purely a gift thing. And if we just found a company that would, make them on demand and drop ship them,
Mhm.
then we're really just paying them as a premium for,
Yeah.
to encourage contribution and not, and take as much of the work off of us as possible.
Mhm.
But I don't know if we could find a stick, like sending stickers, that drop shipping individual stickers.
No.
That
No,
might
I
be
don't-
too small of a thing, and then maybe we just
Yeah.
have like we have Greg in Australia and you in Europe.
Yeah. Well, it might be better to get, and I can do UK and Ireland sort of relatively straightforward, and Europe might be better to have like Olaf or Zella or Matty, who are actually in Europe itself, as it can be a bit tricky, but yeah, I'd imagine if it was stickers, it would be worth each local rep sort of printing off a batch, and just because you just send it as a letter, and
Yeah, I like that. I don't know. We're running out of time in this meeting. Let's plan to revisit this topic in 2 weeks. And maybe if anybody has any time to research some options, and we can chat more about it and decide if we want to do something. If it's going to involve money, I think the PMC will have to get involved, but I don't think the PMC should get involved until there's a more concrete proposal. What do you think, Jen? Does that sound right? Yeah. Okay. So we're almost out of time. The last topic that we haven't talked about is the City CRM update. And you said a few words about that before the meeting, Robert, but just remind us exactly where that's at and what we can do to help.
Yeah, basically, I think we've sort of worked out all the steps we need to move City CRM onto backup.org, and what fields move over and how to convert accounts to contacts and all that stuff. The last thing we wanted to do was related to the sort of the first real thing we do once we've moved over, which is to send out the newsletter, starting to send out the newsletter using CiviMail. And to accomplish that, we'll need to import the mailing list of newsletter recipients. And that means pulling it out of our existing email service. And so I think Jen's going to pull that together and send it to me, and I'll try importing it into beta. And once that's done, then I think all systems are go, and we can start installing City CRM on b.org and making all the changes that we, or all the configuration that we've already done on the beta side.
Sounds good. So the next step is Jen doing a final import into Sendinblue of our email addresses, consolidating that, getting that to Robert so that he can start the process. Do we want to? What in the interim? Do we continue to accept email addresses in the current process? Will we be able to move those directly into City CRM? I assume this is like a new site launch, a migration, right? Where we've got that period in between where data is being changed in the original source after you've given Robert a final list.
I think if we get a new updated list, and what we can do is to install all the city stuff, and then when we're ready to say switch over, do a fresh export of the
Okay.
newsletter list, immediately import it, and make that interval that you're talking about no more than an hour.
Okay. But I'm assuming after you get the first list, it's not going to be an hour. That could be a week or so or more, right?
Yeah, it ought to be an hour, but
Right.
the reason we're going to try it out on the beta site is to discover when you say go import and something goes blah, and then you got to spend a couple hours or a couple days figuring out what you're looking.
Well, the other thing is that we need to be, I think then that what's going to happen, right, is we're going to switch over our newsletter sign up from whatever it is now to directly to City, right? So that in the future, people will be, when they sign up for newsletter, they'll be added directly to City and we won't have any process. So we should also be prepared for that. Like where are our newsletter sign up blocks and maybe get them ready to switch over. Have the City version ready, so we just have to replace it.
Yeah. So on the beta site now, there's a sub tab of the user edit page, which is all the emails that you can sign up for, and that profile also shows up on the new user registration page. And those are the things that we would install on the unb.org as part of the real transition, basically reproducing everything we've got on the beta site on b.org. And so
we do also have a mailing list sign up form on the footer of every one of our websites that for people who aren't logged in, who don't have accounts. And that's what we would need to recreate. But I think it's fine. I think we just set up a web form and have it add the contact to Civi without the user account, and that should be okay. But yeah, and I think we could even we've got a couple options. We could set up an individual web form on each site, or we could set up one web form and get its like exportable like iframe tag and drop that in on the other ones. I don't know exactly how that works, but I know that Nate's done that before. He did that for webform.com. If you have a form, you want to embed another site, you can get it out and you can embed it. It might be some combination of modules that's required to get it going, but I think it's possible. But yeah, maybe we should set up a dedicated issue to work on that.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, we should probably wrap up this meeting. The next meeting is supposed to start already. Jen, you have the button. Hi, everybody. Hi.
All right, I'm stopping the